Well, it is the end of an era. 3 decades after it transformed the music industry, Sony is retiring its classic cassette tape Walkman. But even though it was once a real groundbreaking invention, so many people are telling us they won't even notice that this is gone.
30 years ago, it was cutting-edge technology.
That is our first Walkman.
Now it's nearly forgotten.
Do you know what a Walkman is? Did you ever use one?
With a CD, like to play CDs, yeah.
More tapes, but
That's right, tapes.
The world's smallest cassette player.
In the past 30 years, Sony has sold more than 200 million Walkmen.
20 years ago, yes, and I did use Walkman and it was good.
But now it's pulling the plug.
There's no use for them anymore, except maybe in museums.
I used to have one when they were in fashion, but I don't have one anymore. It's all about MP3s and downloading and iPods.
Sony stopped producing the Walkman in Japan. The last batch was made in April. The times, they are a-changin'. Sony revolutionized the electronics industry with the Walkman in 1979. It was the first ever portable music device. As cassette tapes gave way to CDs, Sony followed up with the Discman. But when Apple burst into the market with its first iPod back in 2001, there was no turning back. In the 9 years since, Apple has sold about 275 million iPods, making it the undisputed leader in portable music. Sony says there's still some demand for the classic Walkman in parts of Asia and the Middle East. To accommodate those customers, it'll produce a limited number of Walkman out of China. But many music lovers went digital a long time ago and say they won't even notice the Walkman is gone.
Walkmans with cassettes, right? No, I don't even have any cassettes anymore.
Go ahead, hands up!
Like Crimped Hair and Pac-Man, a classic of 1980s culture, now banished to the history books and the memories of nostalgic fans.
Well, people may not have too much to say about the Walkman itself, but as soon as the social media world learned that it's just not going to be on the shelves anymore, music lovers sang a sad song. CNN's digital producer Phil Hahn tracked the story online today, and he took a look at some of the other products that have bitten the dust.
As news of the demise of the Walkman spread Monday, it soon became one of the most popular topics on Twitter. Here are some of those tweets. Sonia Moreno in Spain tweeted, "I didn't know Walkmans were still being sold, and now that I know they're retired, I'm sad." Burak Isik in Istanbul, Turkey tweeted, "Atari, Commodore, Polaroid, and now Walkman. 80s generation feels the loss." Sabrina in New York tweeted, "Indeed, it is a sad day. I feel like I should dig out my old Walkman and hold a funeral for it." And finally, Dwight in Washington tweeted, "As my son would say, what's a cassette?" Well, it turns out the Walkman has always been a hit online. This commercial debuted in 1985, but since being uploaded to YouTube in 2007, it has been viewed more than 147,000 times.
With Sony sound, you won't lose a thing here. The new Super Walkman, indisputably the world's smallest cassette player.
But the Walkman isn't the only obsolete product that remains popular online. Some of you may remember Betamax video players. They competed for supremacy with the VHS player as the industry standard back in the 70s. But unfortunately for Betamax, they lost.
With the Sony Betamax and the portable Sony videotape camera, you can do just that. You can record what you want when you want, and watch what you want when you want. It's the best family entertainment on television.
But today, a Betamax is more a relic than entertainment unit.
This is the best birthday I've ever had.
But it's the near death of the classic Polaroid camera which really highlights the power of the internet. Polaroid once reigned supreme among the amateur photo set, but after digital cameras took over, Polaroid sales plummeted, and in 2008, the company announced it would stop making the film. But thanks to a huge response on social media, there's still hope. An online campaign to save the Polaroid included Facebook groups and YouTube videos begging the company to reconsider. A site called SavePolaroid.com helped lead the push, and in October 2009, Polaroid announced it would in fact bring back the instant film camera. So if your favorite toy is about to get the boot, think about turning to the internet for some help.
I may do that. Thank you, Phil Hahn. I need help. I used to think this was so cool. So is there any hope for the classic cassette Walkman? Well, to answer that, I spoke to someone who grew up on digital music. 15-year-old journalist Scott Campbell swapped his iPod for a Walkman for a week last year, and he actually wrote about what that was like. It was so interesting to listen to. Here's what he has to say.
Well, it was certainly very interesting. It was something very different from having an iPod, because obviously it's bigger. It only plays tapes, which was something to really adjust to. In fact, I didn't even know that tapes had two sides.
What?
I was so used to CDs with just the one side, and finding out that they had two sides. And I think there was something else with the switch. I thought that one of the switches was a type of music, but it was for different types of tape, apparently.
I remember thinking I was so cool with one of these in the 80s, listening to my Walkman. Did you find it hard to use? What about the headphones? Did you find them uncomfortable?
I think the sound on the Walkman, it was very kind of crackly, and there were a lot of kind of pops and things like that obviously you don't get with iPods now, and you know, no headphones will improve something like that.
If you went to a shop today and you dropped in from another planet and you saw the Sony Walkman, what would you think? Would you buy it?
I think that I probably would if I had never seen any other device before. Because the thing was, I think at the time it was obviously, as you were saying, a really kind of big, important music device, whereas nowadays it just looks like the equivalent of a kind of video player. You know, nobody really uses it at all.
Are you sad that the Sony Walkman is becoming extinct?
No.
What? After your glorious week-long experience? No, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, seeing other people's reactions as well was very interesting. A lot of people wanted to try it out at school, certainly, because, you know, it's something they'd never seen before, and tapes were something maybe, I mean, I certainly remember them from when I was young, and I don't know, people just were very interested in it. Whereas some people thought it looked really weird, which it does look quite weird nowadays. But yeah, a lot of people were really interested, actually, that are my age. But I think after a while, that interest would begin to disappear.
Did they make fun of you? Did they tease you and go, you know, here's that guy with that huge, you know, box on his, I don't know, did you attach it to your belt or something?
Yeah, exactly. Some people said, you know, why are you wearing that and things like that, as if I was some sort of outcast for wearing this cumbersome box just to play a cassette. You know, they thought it was stupid, because nowadays we don't really do things like that. We just press play on the iPod and that's it. Whereas, you know, I had this massive box with tapes as well, which looked really stupid. I mean, I think it looked stupid even.
Scott, do you have anything you want to say to the Walkman, to Sony, on this historic occasion?
On this historic occasion? Well, I think Walkman, certainly, it was really good at the time it was released, but nowadays we just need it smaller and we need more capacity.
Scott Campbell. Well, here in my hands, as I've been showing you, I have the Sony Walkman. Now, we got it in central London, but I tell you, it was so hard to find. First, we asked all around our bureau, and no one on the CNN staff in London even had one. So then what we did was we stepped onto Oxford Street, which is one of the busiest shopping streets in Europe. No luck there. We called dozens of stores all over London. Now, one salesperson told us to check the British Museum. Well, we finally found this one in a small shop in an area of town known for electronics. It was the only one, so we scooped it up. Guess how much it cost us? $40. By the way, for about $10 more than that, you can get an iPod. All right, so up next, from a dying music scene to the art of photography and how to bring your subjects to life. Up next, our connector of the day, the talented Tim Hetherington, tells us all about his award-winning work. Stay with CNN.